Welcome everybody, as everybody arrives, all in our own time and space, and sharing this occasion. Again, giving attention and receiving experience, settling into this here now, however it is. And reconnecting, recollecting, gathering, a sense of well-wishing that life is. Life wishes itself well, however confused or however limited that capacity is. This is a suggestion that I give to myself and offer to others. Giving life to life, reconnecting, receiving, well-wishing. With this first 15, 16 minutes or so, giving life to life, resting in this knowing. The breath, the rhythm, and this awareness, this knowing. An appreciation of this stillness. Allowing and trusting. Receiving this life which is given, releasing, in this attention. however it is. This moment here and now. A willingness to recollect, to recollect, to reconnect with the limitation of this. And then the knowing, which is connection with that which isn't thinking. Isn't personal and it's unlimited. With this full, steady, collected willingness and appreciation, receiving life, giving life. Giving sensitivity, allowing impingement, the whole of this experience. The safety of this moment, the safety of this awakened presence. The all of it, the all of life. Well, welcome this evening, or this afternoon, or whenever it is that you listen to this, or hear this, or get to this. Over the next little while, there may be a guided meditation somewhere on the website or in different places that has been recorded and cleaned up and prepared. And there's a place for guided meditations, and the short 15 minutes or so of introduction here is something that can be set up and used now as the start before these talks. And this evening, this bright, sunny late afternoon, early evening, little cooler here in Ericeira, I would like to offer some like presents, treats, little things that you might want to try and play with, which are not really guided meditations, but some suggestions of things that you might try as you sit or walk, meditation, or stand or lie down, or just through the day in any moment that you allow. And beginning, as I usually do, with this recommending and recollection and reconnecting with the sense of life, what it is to be alive, and the wellspring of life that just wishes itself a sense of abundance and goodness, which I feel is all aspects of all life. Wherever I see it, that's its nature, is well-wishing. I also see a lot of confusion and whatever conflict may come from it. But basically, in life, there is a sense of, I wish myself well. I wish the real best for myself. And I don't underestimate in my own life and in my own formal practice of sitting or walking or standing or lying down, the benefit that I receive through actually reconnecting with that and and before I pick up any further technique, before I give attention to anything else or try to do something, it's the first thing is I find helpful is to actually just reconnect with that life and well-wishing. And almost before doing anything really, before intending to do anything, just remembering that what the highest wish that we do have for ourselves, we wish ourselves well. And it's actually the same for everybody else, of course, however confused they may be. But in the formal practice, to actually just be in touch with that, I find helpful. And then the posture, What is, then everybody, when they hear the word posture, they go, well, there's a tendency to go, for me anyway, to go all rigid as I try to sit up straight, stand up straight. But no, there's that, because that's maybe the conditioning that I've received. But the sense of release and ease in the posture, and as a real aid to that, I find also a sense of, let's prepare the ground a little bit, and any worries, hopes, fears, or obsessions or concerns that I've got bubbling up in my mind, and actually giving myself the sort of sense of, not now, I'll deal with you later. I'll just, like leaving my shoes at the door, leave my problems, my worries, and my concerns about this or that, or the argument that I've just had, or the particularly disturbing thing that's just happened, or the particularly thing that I have an urgency around, and just saying at the beginning of the meditation, the beginning of the session, not right now, just, it's okay, I notice you're there. There's something that's here in consciousness and demanding attention. But like a child or a puppy or a pet, just letting it know, not right now, I'll deal with you later. Of course, one does have to deal with it later. One does have to actually get back to it, and it may come back. And there may be times when that is so urgent that it becomes something that is the object of meditation for that session. But often it's a sense of, there's an ease in the sense of, okay, right now, just let it, put it aside, in touch with a sense of well-wishing. How does it feel here and now? How's the whole thing actually, the whole experience of being alive, how is that right now? Without any of the worries, hopes, and fears that may be clamoring for attention, or maybe quite pleased to be let go of for a moment. Sometimes, when there's something that seems very urgent, letting it know and saying, well, actually, I'll deal with you later. There's immediate, for me, sometimes there's actually an immediate sense of, oh, great, I don't have to deal with that now. and it'll find its own settling. Because often things can be set aside for a while. They're actually probably not that urgent. Some things are. There's somebody shouting fire, or there's the earth is shaking, or there's something like that. But for the most part, things will be able to wait. And allowing them to wait is great. So this is all almost the preparation. And I think sometimes I can overlook that and think, well, I have to get into my meditation technique, or what I'm going to be doing. So what am I going to be doing now? And I've had some idea that I've heard something about this sort of thing, and I've heard something about that sort of thing. And I think I'll just get straight on with that. And that sometimes just consumes, and in coming from the wrong place and with the wrong attitude, wrong posture, doesn't help. With the posture, and the whole way that the body's held with sitting meditation. If you're sitting on a chair, then something that's okay, that's comfortable, and sitting on the floor also something that's comfortable, something so that the thing feels like at ease. There's all sorts of things that people say you can do, like having a piece of light string pulled up from the crown of the head. And then you have all sorts of imagining happening, and then that can sometimes also, or saying to yourself a sense of release, and then checking whether the body's slumped forward or fall back, but don't making a whole business about that, but a sense of ease, and then a sense of space under your armpits. That's a weird thing to say, but that I feel helps. And a sense of spaciousness around the chest. That suggestion. And maybe breathing a little bit, allowing the breath to find itself, find how it is, and through the body, from the ground up, from the muscles right at the base of the spine and below, sort of allowing that to be as it is, and to know whether it's tight or loose, and then through the whole of the spine, just some sort of soft attention. If you find your shoulders all hunched up, you can play with it a bit. You can hunch it up and then let it go. But that's about all you can do, and you can't really, do more than that. But a real sense of ease around the chest and around the whole thing. You can give yourself energy by, tensing or relaxing the muscles around. But in the end, a sense of release is what's asked for, and what's helpful. Really, I'm running through these things quite quickly, but you can give a lot of time and a lot of aliveness to it, so that the meditation is not just a switching off, but a turning down. It's a awakening and a practicing of this awakening, being awake. And then, how is the hands held? How are the hands held? Well, they usually say, right over left, and then your thumbs lightly touching. I usually say with a piece of paper between them, so that they're not squashed up or flopping apart. But not to make it too much of it. But you can sometimes play with the way that your hands are, and notice that, and notice what that's revealing about how the universe is for you. And then the sensations of the hand, there's usually quite a lot of sensations in the hand. So those can be an area where you can know what's happening in your universe. If your hands are tensing and or if they're floppy, or if you just don't know where your hands are at all, it's not to try to force it, but you can play with it a bit and see how that works. You can, with a sense of openness. I mean, there's a statue of Ananda standing by the Lord, or we don't know whether it's an understanding by the Lord Buddha, or whether it's a statue of the Buddha itself in Polonnaruwa in Sri Lanka, and he has his hands folded in front of him like this. And that's also, what does that feel like, and how does that feel? And so that you've got something to work with in this, just with your hands. With your legs, if you sit comfortably in full lotus, fine. If you sit in half lotus, usually right over left or left over right. If you do have one or the other, then don't always go the same, I suggest shifting it, not always having the same left over right or right over left, but changing it around a bit so that you don't play with it so much. So you don't stay in just one. So those are just the basis of some ideas for this, the beginnings of the posture that is, supports a sense of alertness in the sitting. In the standing posture, I find it, the walking meditation with the standing posture, it's settling there through the whole sense of being there, and then noticing where the impulse to move forward comes from, or move, and then walking, the intention to walk, and then the walking, and what leads from one to the other, and how that works. Is the head leading or the hips leading? How is it working? Are the hands comfortable in front, softly, or folded, or behind? The suggestion is more in front, and then the stopping, and then with the turning. I've mentioned it many times. I think with walking meditation, I've been surprised how much pain can come from walking meditation if the turning is not really soft, and is it just twisting around and turning quickly around? You put strain on your hips and your knees. So softly turning, and I find turning with the eyes. So you let the eyes lead. So you turn, before you turn the head, just turn the eyes, and then let the head softly follow the eyes around in the turning. And I find it helpful to turn at one end of the walking path, turn to the left, and at the other end of the walking path, turn to the right. And then also I find helpful in walking meditation at the deciding that one end of the path I'll start with my left foot, and the other end of the path I'll start with my right. And then it's a way of also keeping me honest, because I notice if I forget, and that's helpful. Which way am I turning, and which foot should I be starting off on? So just these, talking about that for a bit, but this is just the beginning. then any posture you can practice, any meditation. They're different postures. They're not necessarily different meditations. I know there's a booklet called Walking Meditation, and I know that it's a whole thing. And there's a lot that you can do with walking meditation. But even with sitting meditation, you can also do movement. You can notice just the simple movement of the body. You can reach up and touch your chest and bring your hand down to the thing. You can just be with the whole movement of the body, even with sitting meditation. Now, if you're on your own, you've got the whole thing of chanting as well, because you can make that into something that you can do either sitting or walking. And you can use that as a way of giving the heart something to do, and then noticing what gets in the way of this thing that you've given it to do. And then what I notice is what hinders the activity that I've decided, well, I'm going to be chanting, or I'm going to be doing some particular meditation technique. And then what comes up first of all is the hindrances. What's stopping me doing this? And then those, if they're strong, then they become something that then again, they turn into the object of meditation. But for the beginning, just in the ordinary breath, and that, now, with the breath meditation, how do you do this meditation of Anapanasati? There's the Anapanasati Sutta, which is really clear with its 16 steps. But then all the little bits and pieces that people do with it, the counting of the breath. How do you count the breath? Or do you use Buddho with the breath? Buddho, Buddho, Buddho until it slows down? Or do you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the in breath, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the out breath? Or 5, or 3, or And do you count fast or do you count slow? And in counting fast, how does it work? And counting slow, how does it work? Is the breath long or is the breath short? Can you play with the breath? And where do you experience the breath? Do you experience the breath here at the nostril? Do you hear experience as it goes right through inside and then down? Do you feel it as it comes down through the neck? Can you feel how it affects the lungs? And do you feel the effect of the breath on the whole of the body through to the diaphragm and the belly? As the belly rises or falls, does the belly rise on the in-breath or rise on the out-breath? Does the belly fall on the in-breath or does the belly fall on the out-breath? Is the diaphragm hard or soft? These are all things that you can play with the breath. And if you can't find the breath, I suggest breathing out with the belly going in and then holding the breath out. Hold the breath out until, don't gulp the breath in, but sip it in. Sip it slowly so that you allow the in-breath to fill the lungs and the whole of the body and the abdomen as the abdomen fills out with the in-breath. So holding the breath out rather than holding the breath in and sipping the breath back in. It's something you can do. You can do that a few times and then seeing the effect of that on how the heart is and how the mind is. You can play with it that way. And then you can count as well. You can count just one on the first out breath and then two on the next out breath. Or you can count 1, 2, one on the in breath and two on the out breath. You can play with it many ways with counting. Or you can use Buddho. Or you can use peace or something like that. You can, whatever works, and then play with it so that the attention is gathered around the breath, collected around the breath, composed around the breath. And these are ways of working with the breath. And then you can breathe the whole of the body, the sense of the whole body breathing, the whole of the energy of the whole body. What does that feel like? Where do you feel the sense of the body? And then and the body breathing and the rhythm of that. How is the body experienced? What are the pulses or the energies of the body? How is that experienced? With the breath. And this is just anapanasati. It is. Then the whole universe starts to reveal itself. The whole way that this being is starts to revealing itself. How you can play with that, so that the meditation is alive, alert. It's not a shutting down. It's not saying I can't cope or I have to get calm. It's more like, what is happening? What is this thing of being alive? How does it work? Where do I experience the breath? And then the whole of the body, you can take the attention through the tiny little bits of the body from the crown of the head, all the way down, slowly or fast, the little bits, the big bits, the sensation from the skin all the way through to the bone. Do you feel the bone? What do you feel? Do you feel the rhythm of the blood or and how is it experienced? Or is it just something a little bit amorphous? Can you take color through it? Can you take energy through it? What can you do with it? I'm trying to suggest that, use the meditation time, or you can use the meditation time with whatever imagination you can bring to it, so that it's something that is interesting, alive, alert, something you can play with, and so that you know that the way the sensations are underneath your fingernails. So if you should get tortured and your fingernails get pulled out, you know that bit. But if so you know all of the bits of this sense of being alive, and maybe it's nothing very much at all, and that's okay. You know that some places there's more sensation. Some people like to work more with sound or silence, and some people more with color, or just the vibration or the rhythm of life or the pulse of life or the sound of silence. There are so many ways of working. And this is just with a simple body and breath. And then there's the other visualization meditations, which can continue. There's no shortage. There are 40 different basic types of meditation in the Visuddhimagga. And, each one of those can be broken down further. And as I've sometimes said, some people say there are 64,000 Dhamma doors, which I think just means that you have to figure it out for yourself. But what I'm trying to encourage you to feel is that there's nothing really you can do wrong. It's more like you can play with things, or if one of the things that I do find helpful is that if there's something really strong or demanding of my attention, either physical pain or something that is recurring in my thoughts or in my emotional habits or whatever, and I've invited it in, or I've said, well, that this is something that's coming up a lot. I'm going to try and make this something that I'm going to investigate, as they say. And with that, being quite careful, because I don't want to re-traumatize myself or just get fall into things. So it's not, not thinking about something. I don't find that helpful often. I find more like finding a way of allowing space around it. So knowing where the thing that it's obsessive, the pain, or the particular emotion, or the particular obsessive thought is, and then knowing where it's not. So if I've got a pain in my knee, then I know what the pain is like, and I know what's not hurting as well. So I know this, so I can then know the edges of the pain in my knee, and I can know what happens if I give my attention through the pain in my knee. Where is it, and how constant it is. And if I have and similarly with a particularly obsessive thought or a particularly obsessive emotion, where is that? What is that? What is not that? Where do I experience it? How is that? What effect does it have? Doubt. I don't know what to do. Where do I experience? How's doubt experienced? What's not doubting? What's the edge of doubt? And what happens when they breathe with doubt? And what's the knowing of this? These are all things that one can play with in the meditation. You're giving yourself, and I've only spoken for maybe half an hour, but you can give a lot of hours to these things if you wish. And then you don't feel, I can't meditate, because anything that comes up in the end, you can work with, it can be worked with. There's no, I'm frightened of it, or I don't know what to do. If those are the thoughts or the emotions that come up, then, and if they're very persistent, then you can make those the object of your meditation. If they're not coming up, or if they're not, I don't know what to do. Well, I'll get on with what I can do, and I'll come back to those later. So you can work with it in different ways. And then when something is obsessive, then what are you trying to say? What's that? what's really happening here? And then allow the silence. Don't try to figure it out. Just ask the question. And don't expect an answer because there may not be one. But something maybe just resolve in its own way. Or something maybe we'll just go, oh, okay, it's like that. That's no, that's the way it is. Because in the end, it comes down to that. And what's really not suffering and really not caught in it all, just the knowing. You know? Because what knows it all is not caught in it. And it comes down to that in the end. Whatever wonderful techniques that you can dream up and do, and they are wonderful. They are fun. They're useful, particularly if you give yourself a good, length of time to play with them. If you're going to try and do something, give it 3 months, I say. Try to do it every day. And then you'll see whether it's going to work for you or not. And then, is it going to work for you or not? How do you test your progress? If in general, unwholesome qualities are decreasing or not increasing, and wholesome qualities are increasing, then your spiritual practice is going well. Of course, keep yourself safe with a commitment to some precepts because that gives you a foundation in your daily life. And don't hesitate if you can practice generosity because that will certainly help you feel more capable and more able, because this is a gift. And when one gives, one feels one has enough. And that's a really helpful place to come from, the sense of, I can do this. And you can experiment with your meditation. You can give attention all the way through. You can play with it. You can do the Asupagamatan and play with visualizations of the skin and the body and all of this. You can play with metta meditation and do the exercise of wishing yourself well, wishing others well, wishing people that you like and respect, and wishing people that you don't know and wishing people that you feel averse to. You can do that and just keep that going as a sort of exercise. Or you can do visualizations and play with concentrating on color or light. There is no end. I say 40 different types of basic meditation and all the possibilities. But it comes down to doing just one thing well. And the king meditation or the top meditation is the breath. And if it's something that is open to you. And one breath is so revealing. One breath is so revealing of life. It's really fundamental to this human physical aspect. The animal aspect is breath. The repetition of the breath. The strangeness of this exchange. The knowing of the breath. And that which knows the knowing. So that's I hope that helps, and guided meditation is helpful, but these may be some of the things you can do with bits and pieces in that. I may offer some more. And if I've confused you in any way, please let me know in the comments, in the type of message to me, and I'll see if I can clarify anything. And if you have any other questions, also type them in the messages. I'll see what I can do. Thank you for listening. Gratitude is helpful. It's called an aspect of mudita. So thank you for the thank yous. But if you do have any questions, then do let me know. Okay. Questions? Yeah, when things, something happens and then the ripples of that then go through to, when you come to sit, or you carry them with you for a while. Sometimes the sense of, I will deal with that if it's important. And sometimes it's just like a recognition, well, this is something that's rippling through my mind. Some concern about somebody, or something that somebody said, or something that somebody did. And there's a ripple effect in the mind, and and then I don't like that. Don't want that to be there. I want to be stronger, and I don't want to have that. And that obviously just can stir it up more, because the aversion will just generate more energy around it. One of the things is to recognize that if you are in a situation where there's a lot of confusion and a lot of people who are not particularly wise, and there's a lot of things going on, is just to recognize it's going to be like this. When I leave here, as I leave here, I'll just say, I'll come back to it in its good time. And I'm going to notice, first of all, what's not affected by this. I'm not trying to get rid of it, but I'm just trying to notice the space around it. And I'm not going to try to stir up this more. I just put it down. This is something to do with this situation and this work. And I know that in the grand scheme of things, this is just a ripple. It's not a tsunami. And if it's really important, I'll deal with it in its good time. And being negative and not wanting to have things that are negative is going to make it worse. I wish myself well. Other beings wish themselves well. They are confused. They don't really know what they're doing. When one recognizes that only really fully awakened behavior is sane, and mature, and most behavior is insane and immature, because humans are in such pain, and often they don't even know the pain that they're in. And I know what pain does to me. It makes me stupid, because all I want to do is get rid of the pain, and that can be stupid. Whereas the noble thing is to just know the pain That I find helpful. Yeah. And there's going to be unkind people and terrible people in one's life. That's the nature, and people are going to be confused. And you can protect yourself as best you can from them, but sometimes you do have to deal with it. And when one goes into their presence, have a sense of, well, I don't need to be so sensitive. If you're very, very sensitive when you go into the kitchen and you take stuff out of the oven, you're going to get very, very burnt. But if you put on good oven gloves, then when you touch something that's really hot, you can remain sensitive within the oven gloves, which actually protect you from the impact. So when you go into a situation or you're with somebody who you feel is toxic, then have a sense of protection and know what's inside, and don't respond so much to the strong outside stimulation, and keep your attention inward. It may be frustrating for them, but if you have your attention inward, then you can feel yourself protected and feel your senses protected. You can actually be more sensitive because you're protected. With energizing yourself, or energizing the posture and energizing the thing, right down at the base of the spine, right down at the base of the whole sense of being and sitting. There's the energy of that, those chakras, right down there, and then the chakra of the heart and the belly, sense of let this be strong, and really coming into that and really feeling that, and allowing that energy to fill from the from below and and through the trunk and through that. I find if I try to energize with my head, I just get confused. But actually getting into the physical sense of the heart and the lower parts of what's happening here, that I find much more energizing and alert making and settling, actually. It's not so disturbing. Um, and with the breath, just, if you, as I say, if I breathe out and hold my breath out and then sip the breath back in, do that a few times. That changes things for me. And one can do that as well. So different ways of doing it. Yeah. And walking meditation keeps you awake. But can you explain what means abiding in karma and exhausting our karma? Well, the karma is intentional action, and I'm not sure whether exhausting is karma. Results of karma vipaka will be one aspect of causality. It is the intentional action. Karma that leads to the end of karma is any practice of the Eightfold Path. That's the karma that's worth not exhausting, actually, but actually practicing. So practicing samadhi means actually really considering, well, what is my basic direction in life? What are my assumptions? And practicing that the assumption of my life is, in doing good, there is goodness. There's goodness in doing good. There are, where I am is because of past things that have happened. There may be things that I don't understand, and there is a way that I can be taught. There are beings there are connections that I can make that will help teach me. And that's the start of an assumption of samadhi. And a liberating aspect of a samadhi or assumption is this, which I'm experiencing now, is absolutely not sure. I really don't know what's happening. However terrifying that might make me feel, I don't know what's happening. I know that there is a certain amount of stress and uncertainty. This is how it is. I know where that stress and uncertainty ends, and I know what I can do about it. So, relating to the Four Noble Truths is actually liberating, and then practicing thinking and intending not to harm, not to exploit, and not to indulge. And then from there, with your speech to yourself and to others, not lying, not being harsh, not gossiping, not just backbiting and making a nuisance of yourself with your speech. And in your actions, not training yourself not to kill, not to steal, not to misuse your sexuality. These are this is what you can do in your karma. It won't, it's generating karma that leads to the end of karma. I wouldn't try to exhaust my karma by I'd try generating karma that leads to the end of karma, practicing the Eightfold Path in all its aspects. Through livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and continuity, concentration. I hope that helps. Work through virya barami. Right effort is it's about, first of all, it's like stopping. That's the thing about right effort. It's a sense of stopping the things that are unwholesome, or not picking up the unwholesome things, not starting to do things that are unwholesome, and then allowing the things that are unwholesome not to be fed, and then maintaining the things that are wholesome and picking up new wholesome things. This is virya, vayama, samavayama, right effort, and continuing to do it with some vigor. I'm not sure that I can figure out all of the gossiping, backbiting, harmful speech, and lying, but just noticing how the speech happens in one's life, and noticing how you talk to yourself. You may not say a lot out loud, but notice how you talk to yourself, and be kind in that speech, so that it's something that's you feel happy about receiving when you talk about yourself to yourself. Because the being that needs the most care and love in this whole universe is the being that you live with all the time. And that's because that's the best place you can begin, with that kindness. Thank you for your questions today, your suggestions. Wish you well in the continued practice of the Eightfold Path. And that's the karma that leads to the end of karma. And continuity in that. Sama samadhi is a continuity of this practice. And that's possibly the most difficult thing, keeping it going, not wavering in this. And that's where the sati is helpful, mindfulness. Fully present, awake, alert, and aware. This is what we're practicing. So that the life is a blessing for ourselves and for others.